Virginia was beautiful, even though she never smiled. She was Spanish and pronounced the G in her name as if she were trying to clear a phlegmy H from her throat. Virginia, she had repeated after I anglicized her name. I couldn't say it right, and she didn't correct me a second time. It was easier online, where pronunciation didn't matter. Exchanging a couple of words felt like a conversation, and meeting up in person seemed like a good idea. Throughout dinner, Virginia hardly spoke. She just sat there eating and nodding while I yammered on and on, trying to stave off the uncomfortable silences. But every time I chewed a piece of steak, the quiet stretched on, and the beads of sweat on my forehead swelled and began trickling down my face. "Food's good here," I said, swallowing hard and mopping my forehead with a napkin. In response, she just raised her eyebrows and forked a cherry tomato into her mouth. On the walk back to her place, I stopped talking. Occasionally, I'd look at her and smile. Virginia never smiled back. At the door to her building, I said, "Well, thanks for dinner." Virginia fished her keys out of her gigantic purse and unlocked the front door. I waited for her to say something, anything to let me know I actually existed, even the phlegmy H sound, as long as it was directed at me. But instead of speaking, Virginia stepped inside her building, held open the door, and glanced back at me. "Coming in?" she asked, squinting at me. I glanced down the street towards my apartment. It would have taken me 10 minutes to get there, 3 if I ran. I turned back to Virginia. She licked her lips and squinted harder. At that moment, she looked just like her profile picture, so I followed her inside. On the elevator, neither of us spoke. We were like strangers who lived on the same floor. I visualized her apartment full of screeching caged animals and loud cuckoo clocks. Her apartment was Spain. Photographs of strong flamenco dancers, guitarists, and singers dripping with passion crowded the walls next to proud matadors in gilded costumes. The warm tile beneath my feet was the color of sand. A bowl of oranges was in the center of an antique dining table, and a tiny front-loading washing machine was in the corner of the kitchen. "Beautiful place," I said, stepping towards a stocked wine rack on the floor in the living room. I grabbed a bottle of red. "May I?" I asked. When she nodded, I poured us each a glass. Sophia sat on her feet in the corner of the couch. I handed her a glass and sat in the opposite corner. I looked around and down my drink. Virginia was staring at me. I hadn't noticed her watching me. I glanced at the flamenco dancers, beautiful and full of desire. Then I began inching towards her. I reached out to put my glass on the coffee table, but let go too soon, and the glass shattered. Virginia flinched and put her bare feet onto the floor. "Sorry," I said, "don't move." Running into the kitchen, I returned with a broom and a dustpan. After I cleaned up the mess, I said, "Did you cut your feet?" Virginia shook her head and came towards me. She pressed up against me. I kissed her neck. She tilted her head, offering it to me briefly before pulling away and leading me down the hall to her bedroom. Standing beside her bed and staring at the floor, she undressed. I watched her for a minute, but felt guilty seeing her that way. So I turned to her closet where a red flamenco costume hung on the door. I wanted her to put it on and become the woman in those pictures. I undressed in front of the costume. When I heard Virginia slip under her covers, I turned and followed her. She didn't look at me until I was on top of her. I kissed her. She kissed me back with her mouth closed. My tongue felt out of place against her lips, so I went back to her neck and then slid inside her. Virginia's mouth pressed against my ear. She was silent except for the tiny bursts of air that escaped her lips. Lifting myself up, I looked into her dark eyes. Her face was vacant. She could have been thinking about her taxes or the next day's breakfast. So I thrust harder and harder, her cheeks and hair and breasts jerking up and down with me. Sweat began to pour down my body and drip onto hers. But still she made no sound other than the shallow bursts of breath. I saw the flamenco costume in my periphery and knew her passion was waiting to be released. I moaned to see if she was taking cues from me. She wasn't. "Say something," I wanted to yell. I stopped holding back and pressed as hard as I could. Her mouth fell open, but nothing came out. I leaned forward, pressing my ear to her bottom lip, and then my eyes squeezed shut, and I went limp. I rolled off of her. Virginia lay covered in my sweat, breast exposed. What's wrong with her? I thought, trying to catch my breath. What's wrong with me? I stood and dressed in front of the flamenco costume. Virginia approached me from behind, reached past the costume and grabbed a beige housecoat from the closet. She slipped it on and walked me to the door. Before stepping out of her apartment, I leaned forward and kissed her on both cheeks. It was the only Spanish custom I knew. She kissed me back, and I left. There was nothing to say. We didn't know each other, and we never would.